we got it from Brazos last October, it was cash flow positive. Almost immediately after transferring to us, the provider of services went bankrupt. The new cost of services went up close to 70%. So from $125 an hour to operate to over $200 an hour to operate. The fare box hadn't been changed in 3 years. Now, we have a 70% increase in cost, and we have no fare box increase in 3 years. All the analysis came back and said, look, the break-even line for this public service is $12 to $13 a round trip, a 20 to 30% increase in cost to the user. I refuse to run Amtrak. Amtrak runs at a loss historically. It's a public transportation system. It's a disgrace. If we want to provide a park and ride, we need the users of the park and ride to pay their cost to cover it. And we wanted to create that opportunity to say, look, if we want to have this as a long-term amenity to the residents and the surrounding communities, because over half the riders of the bus do not live in the Woodlands. So I can't justify spending my Woodlands resident tax dollars to subsidize somebody else coming in from another part of the county to ride my bus and have me subsidize it with my residents' taxes. So it made sense that we need to increase the cost to cover what the services are being provided. And we did that. And I'd say that was a Mike Bass and I. We're both advocating that we take the increase. Consultants didn't want us to take the increase. I had riders complain about the increase. At the end of the day, our ridership did not drop, and now we have the funds to make that a long-term public transportation system solvent.
So why do you think the consultants were opposed to increasing the rates?
I think consultants lack business skills. They think in terms of entitlement programs, and you can't charge something that actually costs. If it costs $1, they want to charge 80 cents, or 50 cents in order to get people to use the amenity. And my philosophy is if they want it, they'll pay what it costs. And if you can have an open and candid conversation and say, look, I know you like this bus, I know you like this park and ride, but it's losing this community money, and other people are paying for you to take this bus.
So then why do you oppose subsidizing riders on a bus, but you're happy to subsidize water at the state level? For people in West Texas, water's going to cost twice what it costs, in a more water.
Well, you have to go back.
So why do you want to subsidize?
Where did I ever say I was going to subsidize water?
Well, when you want to do the Prop 6 and take state funds and build this.
Let's clarify. I have never said that I'm going to subsidize water.
That's what Prop 6 did, state level.
Prop 6 took $2 billion out of the rainy day fund, and it put it into a, SWIFT, which is a new fund where the money's lent out and gets repaid back in. It's lent out and secured against the water rights, the revenues that come off the water that's generated from those projects. So the money goes out, and then the money comes back in. So it's not even a real expenditure where you're spending. When you spend, if I buy this cup, my money's gone.
What happens if the money doesn't come back in?
It's secured by the water rights. If I could buy all the water in Texas, I'd be one of the richest people in 10 years. So
it's still subsidizing it. Those businesses or individuals are not paying for that project.
They are. They have to pay back the money they get out of it.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be pretty quick.
Right now, the Fed's putting in about $1 trillion a year into the economy. Our deficit is higher than it's ever been, essentially 1 year decline, but it's all projected to essentially go back up. Do you agree with these federal policies? Are you concerned that we're creating another market bubble? And if so, should the state be doing anything to protect our finances against that?
What the federal government's doing with its debt and its printing of money is an attack on every citizen. All of us savers who do the right thing and are trying to save for the future, our money's being devalued. And it's great to go out and buy a car at no interest, but it's not gonna be so great when the interest and inflation hits. And takes the $10 I saved last month and turns it into 5. You know, the printing of money is gonna damage us for decades. It's not a short-term solution. So no, I'm not supportive of borrowing money from China and somewhere else so that we can pump up our consumption lifestyle and pretend like we're recovering faster than we actually are recovering. I mean, that's all that's happening. It's a shell game. And the reason the Democrats have been winning elections is because they're giving out handouts. You know what? I'll give you an iPhone. I mean, come on, come vote for me, and I'll increase your EBT card.
Right.
I mean, these are all things that are happening, and it's borrowed. I mean, it's not just the printing of the money; they're actually borrowing money and printing money.
Right.
I mean, they're burning the candle at both ends. You know, if Texas can get all of Texas's gold moved back to Texas, that would make me very happy. So. You know, I would have gone to the federal side if it didn't prohibit highly qualified business people like myself from serving. That system has been set up to where you have to eliminate people who are actively engaged in the real world from being able to serve. And you know, yeah, the debt, inflation, it's stealing from all of us. That's why I say the largest threat to our country today is a domestic threat, and it is our federal government.
And should the state be doing anything to?
The only thing, like I said, the state, if
Bring back our gold?
it can bring back its
Okay.
gold, that would be a good step.
Yep.
When we went off the gold standard, you know, it's been a wild ride down.
Right.
So,
Okay,
All right, 5-minute close.
okay, 5-minute closing.
Up to 5 minutes.
do you want to give me a minute here? Come up with a close. I just made up an intro. Can you just replay that? But you know, let's talk, you know, about the SWIFT thing. Yeah, they should have been able to pull that out in the general budget, right? I'm not saying I supported the SWIFT thing as the ultimate solution day one. What we have is a lack of prioritization in the entire spending, in the entire budgetary process. But what you also have is we are now almost 3 decades behind in water resources. And it is not the best answer, it's not the best solution, but if you go with nothing, we're now another session behind getting anything moving. And when they came out and they had another water fund created, I think it was 2 sessions ago, but they didn't have any funding in place for interim financing. So as I understand Prop 6, it provides, and you guys are building construction, right? If you can't build the house, how do you ever sell it? Right? If you have to have that interim financing as a builder construction loan. So the past solutions they put out there negated the fact that you had to build something to get the water online. It's great. We already created funds available for people to expand water supply, mud districts and other things. But we didn't give them the tool to actually make the construction project launch.
Do we not give them the tool, or do we not give it to them and attracted enough dollars, and they wanted the cheaper dollars?
Well, hell, anybody give you money for free today, you just call a bank. You know, they're all wanting me to borrow money now because they can't get a return on their own. So, as I understand SWIFT, you took, which is a rainy day fund, and it hadn't rained for 3 years, you took $2 billion out, okay? And that $2 billion gets lent out to create additional water supplies for construction. It is secured by the water right revenue that comes when that water comes online. Then that fund gets replenished with interest. They are charging interest. These are not interest-free loans. So that $2 billion will refund itself and grow.
You trust the government way more than I do.
Look, I don't trust anybody, okay? But that is how I understand that to be set up. So, you know, I wish that they would totally reprioritize the whole budgetary process. Let's go to the constitutional bone. What are we constitutionally required to do? And fund those things. And whatever's left over, really evaluate, do we really need it? Or do we just want it? Or is it just a like to have, right? You know, you're talking about 100 years ago, they didn't do water. They didn't have to. You went down, had your own well, you know, lived near the water supply, you took care of yourself. But we've urbanized, and that's changed kind of the equation of how water is getting delivered. So, yeah, it's not popular to support something like that. It takes courage to say, you know what, I'm more concerned about providing a resource that's vital to the economy, vital to our life, than, you know, the way that they got it done. I wasn't there. I couldn't sit there and scream on the floor and say, you know, this needs to be done in the general budget. I wasn't there to say, look, here's 15 line items that takes $2 billion out, drop these, put it in here. But those are things I would have done if I was there. You know, and at the end of the day, they closed. I know there's 31 state reps that fought hard to keep it out, right, to get it put into the general budget. So what you gotta ask those folks is, if you were for it being in the general budget, really, why is it such a bad idea? You're just mad at how they paid for it. Because if they would have supported it in the general fund, it couldn't have been that bad, even to them. Does that make sense? Because they were all saying they would vote and support it if it had been part of the regular budget. None of them has said they wouldn't.
Okay.
That was a sidebar.
Okay.
Because I talked to them, both of them. You know, you know, Steve and I talked through session. He said, what should I do? I said, you need to vote the way you need to vote. You know, I'm not gonna tell you what to say, what to do. If you believe that this is a bad deal, don't vote for it. You know, I'm not there. You can't tell me how to vote on my current board. Yeah, I don't call you and say, hey, you really, how many times have I called you guys and said, look, do you think it's a good idea that I go attack this insurance thing? I mean, we didn't even talk about the retirement pension plans. You guys know about this?
Oh, at the township?
How many people in government, period, besides Scott Walker, do you know who's attacking public retirement plans? Can you name them? I am. I have, and I'm doing it now. I mean, my first 4 months in the township, the first thing I came out as a major agenda is, look, a 200% match into a 401A is ridiculous, and we need this changed. I'm in a very, 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 very conservative county. I couldn't get people to support looking at it without adding other things to it that would then convolute the picture. It's black and white. I'm a financial professional. A 200% 401k match is ridiculous. And justifying how every other city's doing it or how the county does it doesn't matter to me. I want to create a model they copy, not copy their failed model. The fact you guys don't know that I'm doing this scares me, because that is a very unpopular, courageous move. There's 400 votes. 400 votes I lost instantly the day I showed up. And I campaigned on it, so I didn't have any of them supporting me when I got there. And I've had to go through the process of, okay, I'm being blocked and tabled on this agenda. How do I get around that? You know, it's agended for February, not to be refought, but I already won the argument of getting it on the table as an isolated item with an outside firm who will come in and validate or invalidate my position on whether a 200% match is required to be competitive in the public sector, because we're comparing ourselves to a pension plan. Those pension plans are wildly underfunded and huge off-balance sheet liabilities, right?
Yeah.
There's nobody else who's gonna go out there and do that stuff. You guys even asked me about Joe Strauss. I'm disappointed.
So tell us, do you support?
Would I have supported Joe Strauss?
No.
Look, what I've tried to tell you all along is the experiences that I have in life, in the military. I would have ran for Speaker of the House. That's how much confidence I have in my ability to lead. And it wouldn't matter to me that I'm a freshman. I'm a senior in life. I have a PhD in life. And, you know, if you really felt strongly about somebody not being the right kind of leadership, you should have stepped up and ran yourself. That's how I am. I would have ran. Hey,
She didn't like what Strauss is doing overall.
all I know is secondhand information, you know, and if what I've been told is accurate, that there's all these side deals going on, I wouldn't have voted for him. But I don't know him. I've never met him. All I know is my personality is if I get in there and I say, you know what? I don't like that. I don't like this having to dedicate my vote to somebody before the vote's even had. Right? And if I felt strongly enough about that, I said, okay, I'll put my name in the hat. And I would have ran for it. And yes, I'm a freshman.
So why the jump from township director to senate? Why not maybe an interim, stop over in the House to
You know,
get your feet wet in there?
It really comes down to, you don't get experience in the House that makes you qualified to be a senator, a congressman, a governor, a lieutenant governor. That experience comes outside of government, and I have that in spades. You can't fake having military background experience and being a veteran. You can't replicate starting a company from scratch with $10,000 and turning it into a near $1 billion organization. Those experiences come outside of that office. And I don't need to go in for remedial training to be told how I need to get in line. That is a old school establishment mentality. Ted Cruz, tell me what office he served in before he became a U.S. Senator and went on a marathon filibuster.
Attorney General, Texas Attorney General.
He was not an elected official.
Solicitor.
He was not, but he was not elected. That's the first office he ran for. I almost ran for senator, U.S. senator, in the same cycle with Ted Cruz. I met Ted, and instead of running, I was glad I didn't. I supported him. I raised money for him. His Montgomery County headquarters for Ted Cruz was in one of my offices. I recognized that he had the right fight, the right skill to be an effective senator, and it was a good decision, and I'm proud of him. When I look at what we're dealing with here in Texas, if you look at how the House rules work versus the Senate rules work, my skill set, my personality is best serving in the Senate. I have to be effective. If I'm willing to set aside myself from my business, from my family, I'm going to be effective. That's just the way it is. And if the House is such a great place to be, why do we have so many people jumping out of it? You can't convince me to take your job that you don't want. And you don't want it for a reason, because you can't be effective there. And that's sad. Because if the system's set up to make it where if you hold your principles and values, you get ostracized and you can't get an appointment to a committee and none of your legislation makes the floor, that's not a place I'm gonna go to. And in the Senate, you get a committee assignment. You get to have your voice heard. You're gonna be effective. You're gonna touch more pieces of legislation. So, anyways.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
I know that wasn't my 5-minute close, though.
No, that's it.
You just read it in front.